Hello everyone. So this is part 2 of my AliExpress cello video, and in part 1 I showed you how I unboxed it and maybe a quick overview of it. But I had a junior videographer with me, my son, and so it wasn't really done properly. And today I'm just going to start off by showing you the cello again. Some parts were not really clear, so let's start with the cello. So to look at the cello, if you looked at the pictures that I have here of the actual cello on the internet, actually they look roughly the same. It's just the colors are a little bit different. Maybe on your screen it might still look different. It looks a little bit reddish to me. And the little antiquing, whatever this effect is that they put on the varnish, I must say I'm not a big fan of it. I would rather the whole cello be this color and they leave it. Anyway, this is the cello, and just to turn around, look at the sides. It looks pretty nice. Okay, and the back, the flame look is really nice. There's some kind of weird marks all over the cello. This is one of them. A little maybe a pencil mark. And there's another one up here. I don't know if you can see on the camera. There's another mark here. I don't know what that is, but otherwise, it looks okay. Just my opinion, I may be wrong. The important part of the cello, the expensive piece of wood that you should invest in, is this. The back is less important. Why? Because this is the one that vibrates the most. And so if you look closely at the grains of the wood, the grains on this one, if you can really see it, it's kind of narrow. So a little narrow for me, and I think a narrow kind of grain would be useful for maybe a violin or viola. And so if you compare it to here, I have my pretty expensive German-made instrument. If you look at the grain of the wood, it's quite wide. It's rather wide, comparatively, maybe twice the width at least. And I think that makes a huge difference to the tone of the cello. So the other part that I want to focus a little bit on is this neck bit. Now if you look at the neck on this one, you realize the little flamed patterns are not really there. And that's because I think on these cheaper instruments, the type of wood here, it's where some of the compromises are made. And I think that's fine. They're not really affecting the tonal quality as much. They're more for aesthetics. But what I kind of find weird is this bit here is very unfinished. It's kind of as if it's not even varnished, and maybe that's how it is. But to me, it feels rough. It's like they just send it down this piece of wood. And maybe they did, they varnished, then they sended the varnish away, because you look at the transition here, that's how it is. But on my other instrument, this part, you can see in the camera, it's kind of shiny. There is some maybe oil, some kind of treatment, right, on it, so it doesn't feel as rough. And of course, you can see it, the grains or the little tiger stripes here. It's indicative of the type of wood that's being used for that part of the cello. So with the two cellos comparison done, let me just give another one that was not really shown properly in the previous video. This is the tailpiece that came with the cello, and I'm just going to give you a closer look at it. Okay, and here I have in my other hand original Wittner tailpiece that I have had for maybe 10 years or more. Now I'm just going to put them side by side. Look at that. It's almost indistinguishable. Anyway, the only way you can tell an original from a non-original, I won't say fake, is well, you can see the top, two screws or two metal pieces. That's to kind of hold the bar in between in place. That's one giveaway sign. The other one is of course, the inside. One says Wittner Germany, and the other one doesn't say that. But they really look the same. And the only difference with the Chinese one is that there's a little support pieces here. There's little ribs in the middle. Other than that, it looks almost the same. Okay, so that's a side-by-side comparison. Now just turning the little screws, and that's where the difference is. The screws make a difference because once you have load, like the pressure of the strings on the screws, some of the cheaper tail pieces, the screws will not turn. It's like hard to turn. The Wittner ones, they work. I've kind of tested this off camera. It seems okay. And weight, they seem to weigh the same. I haven't put them on the scale. Maybe if I will, I'll put them on the screen and you can see it. But weight, they feel the same. And if you ask me, like how it sounds, this is unscientific, but the Wittner one has a slightly higher pitch, which might indicate it is made of a slightly higher density material, but doesn't wait. I got the wrong one. This is the Wittner one. This is the Chinese one. So the Chinese one has a higher density material. It's higher pitched, okay? So, and the last part, and also off camera, I tested it. And there's a reason why I tested it, so I don't want to waste my time on the video. I have a Tailgut, and this is an original Wittner Tailgut that I also bought maybe 10 years ago and never really used it. It's a spare. And I'm going to show you the Tailgut that came with the cello. This is the Tailgut that came with the cello. And if I kind of like pull it apart a little bit, I don't know if you can see it on camera here. Yeah, you can see the inside, and it's some kind of wire, steel wire. I assume it's stainless steel, but it's definitely a steel wire Tailgut. Now this is a little too short, and I've tested it. It's just a hair too short to get the right afterlength, and I'm going to show you the difference in length. Here is the original Wittner Tailgut and the Chinese one. Okay, look at how much shorter it is. It is about an inch, maybe a 2 or 3 cm less, and that makes a world of a difference when you're making the after-length tuning, which I will do later in the video. So tailpiece, cello, review done. I have no opinion of how the fingerboard curvature this part is. You know, that's something that is above my pay grade. I will not discuss it. And so let's move on to setting up the cello. So the first thing you want to do when you get a cello like this is to put the Soundpost into the cello. Now the Soundpost, I don't have a Soundpost pickup. I kind of misplaced mine. So the easy way to do to have some insurance against a falling Soundpost when you're trying to set it is to have a little wire like this. This is a regular like cable tie. So you just wrap it around the Soundpost once or twice, and then hopefully when you try to set it, it doesn't like freaking fall off. And what I like to do is that I like to put it like in between the cut so that my wire doesn't slide up and down that much. And then I put my Soundpost setter in like this, okay? And once I have it in, I slowly lower it into my cello. Now this is really hard to do on camera, so I have the cello facing me now on the A string side. I'm gonna put it in slowly. And there's a ton of video about where the Soundpost should be. I'm not gonna go into that detail, but basically it's slightly south of the position where the bridge is. And you can see where the bridge should be kind of using the marks that's on the belly. Now, if you don't know where that is, there's also an ideal measurement that probably you can follow. And that measurement is like about 40 cm, I think, from the top of the cello. That's the ideal position of where the Soundpost should be. Okay, so now I've put the Soundpost in. It's not perfectly straight, and I kind of like just yanked it there so that it stays in place. And you realize I'm keeping my thumb on the cello. Let's just give it a little bit of pressure so that I can keep the Soundpost there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the hook end of the Soundpost setter to set this position of the Soundpost. Now, this can be hard for people, though you who are doing it the first time, but if you're doing maybe the second, third time, it's not that hard. And the good thing about having a little string right here is that I can keep a little bit of tension on the Soundpost as I knock it around. If you know, you're like me and you don't do this as a professional for a living, it's okay. You know, it takes a while. You might even take a few, you know, attempts to even set the Soundpost up right. but that's fine. Be patient. This is really an important step. Now what you do is once you get the Soundpost roughly in the right place, what you want to do is to actually measure where it is. And what you do is you get a piece of card like this, okay? And you kind of cut a line in the middle, like this. And so with that line, you can use it to slide inside the cello. And so here I can measure where the bass bar is, okay? And you can see the bass bar relative to where the feet is, you know, this is the distance inset from the feet. And I'm doing this also for the Soundpost. It should be roughly at that same distance, right? Right now, it seems to be in the right place. Maybe still a little bit too far in. And it is too far south, like it's almost 1 cm south. So I'm gonna have to move it up north, a little bit up towards the fingerboard by giving a few knocks. Now it's not under string tension, it's really easy to shift the Soundpost. The Soundpost shouldn't be too tight. Okay, it should be just under slight tension, just a little bit. Okay, and then just get it up. So check it every time you move it. That's kind of too near. So now you can do some light taps to move it away. Now the last part you want to do is to look through the bottom of the cello to see if the Soundpost is straight. At the same time, because now you're looking inside, you can kind of see if it fits well at the bottom and the top, whether the feet is kind of like well like adjusted so that they meet the surfaces properly flush. And of course, now that it's kind of like inside the cello, you can see also how far it is. There's a center line of the cello, and you can see like where the bass bar is and where the Soundpost is. And the bass bar should be as far away from the center line as the Soundpost. They should be kind of equal distance on both sides, okay? And now that I have the Soundpost roughly in the right place, it's time to put the tailpiece and the Endpin, I got this wrong in the last video, in the right place. Now, one tip for you guys is if you install the Endpin, usually if you're a right handler, you install the Endpin facing your right hand. This is how it is. But I don't like it like perfectly pointing to one side. I actually like it pointing slightly like this to the back of the cello. That's because when you hold the cello and you try to tighten your Endpin, you're usually tightening it from the back like this. And so the angle of the screw relative to where your finger is matters. Now, if this is on this side, it's really hard to give leverage for you to turn it. So make it slightly angled, kind of like this. Like just use your hand, find a comfortable position, then put the Endpin in, and that's the position, okay? For me, it's somewhat like that. And if you look at a cello that's set up like this, you're like, oh, that's wrong. Somebody like put the Endpin in the wrong place. Nope, that's actually designed for comfort. Now, I'm gonna put the tailpiece in, and for the purpose of the cello, since I already have a Wittner tailpiece, I'm going to use the Wittner tailpiece. I'm going to use the Wittner tailgut. I do not want to use the tailgut. That's kind of too short. Now, when you are putting the screws back on a nylon tailgut, be very careful that the screws turn smoothly into the nylon. Now, if you put it in and it's hard to turn and you're forcing it, you basically cross-thread your nylon. And once you do that, it's really hard to get out, okay? So make sure you don't like yank it in. Make sure it turns like smoothly, you know. Okay, now I have it in the roughly the right place. I'm just gonna use the old tailgut to measure it because I did the measurements on the old one. And it was roughly this length plus and minus a little bit more. Okay, it looks about right. Just gonna loosen this a little bit, see if I got the right length. Okay. With the tailgut in place, I'm going to put the tailpiece on and make sure it's hooked into the groove. Some people put it on and while they're setting up, it slips out and they forget. So make sure you check this a few times, make sure it's in the groove. And it's supposed to be there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little piece of cloth here to protect the cello. This is a good thing. You put the cloth here so that it doesn't damage the cello. And then the first string that I usually put on the cello is the C string, because that's the most, the thickest and the most durable string. In case I mess it up, I can, the C string will not fail like other string. So here, I don't know which string is which. The G and D are almost the same thickness, so I'll have to figure it out later. But here is the C string. This is pretty obvious. The windings have come apart. This is really old, but I'll fix the windings in a bit. Okay. Put the tail piece on the C string. And when you're using an old string, the first thing you want to do is not twist the string. So it's easy to like cause a twist on the string because you're putting it on and there's all these like curls that are already there. You want to put it on and make sure the strings are not like, twisted. And because if you have a twisted string, it'll cause it to unwind pretty quickly. Okay? So put it on, turn it. And I like to turn the strings so that they kind of fit together nicely. But on the C string side, I'll let it like wind out a little bit. Okay? Because the C string is on the side. So wind out a little bit. Okay? So once I have the string on, okay, I'll put the bridge on. The bridge. And here, before I put the bridge on, I have a little pencil. And what you want to do is take a pencil, put some of that graphite of the pencil into the groove of the bridge like this. Okay? And what the pencil does is to lubricate the bridge. So it makes the string slide against it, and also put the graphite on the nut, the top part of the cello, right here. Move my old cello away. Okay, put the pencil in, just make some drawings, or if you make a mess, just use an eraser to erase the rest. Okay. That's it. Now you put the string on, put the bridge on. And once you have the bridge on, roughly in the right place, and that's kind of like the bridge should be sitting there in between where these notches are, okay? Roughly. Make sure you check this. Once again, look at that. It's come off, right? Put it back in. Tighten the string a little bit. And then adjust the bridge. Make sure everything's in the right place. Then what I'll usually do is then put the A string on, because that's the other side of the bridge that you need tension on. So I find the A string. It's my old A string. Same thing, hook the A string on. Make sure you don't twist it. Use a pencil. That's my pencil. Put some graphite in the groove. This is going to be a bit harder because the groove is tiny, tiny. Put the graphite in the groove, okay? And then graphite also in the nut area. Give it a little bit of tension. Make sure your strings wound properly. Make sure they don't cross. Now this is not a guitar. For you guys who are guitar players, this is not a guitar. You don't have to tie a knot. Do not tie a knot. Okay? Do not cross the strings. They should not cross each other. It should look like this. Okay? This is how you put a cello string in. The top part of the string has some like stiff components that will allow you, that will stay bent once you put it into the hole. So you do not cross the strings. Okay? Now as you tighten the strings, just make sure, check two things. Check that the strings are in the groove here. Check the strings are also in the right grooves on the bridge. Check that the tail gut is hooked. Okay? So once all these are in place, some tension now. What I'll do is I'll start measuring. This is when you do the measurement. Take a ruler. It's my big ruler. I'll measure 40 cm from the top. And make sure my bridge is in the right place. And looking like it is in the right place. Okay? And I'll measure 40 cm from the top here as well, and it's also in the right place. Now the C string side is a bit off, so I'm going to move it. And since the strings are not really tightened yet, you can move the bridge, so this is the time to move it. Now once I've moved it, what I usually like to do is to also make a mark. But before I do that, I'm not done yet with my measurements. This is what you see. Like I said, it should be, the 40 cm mark should be 2/3 way down the bridge. So it should be where 1/3 way up the bottom of the feet. Okay, that's roughly there. Then take another ruler, small one. I would like to measure from the edge of the F hole to the feet, and that both sides should be around the same length, right? So here I have 3.9 or 3.8 if you measure from the little notch, and at the same time here is 3.5, so it's kind of too near the bass side. I'm going to move it towards the treble side a little bit. Okay, let's measure again. Okay, it's 3.6, 3.65. It's getting close. You yank it a little bit more. Now measure again. 3.6, 3.6. Okay, now they're equal distance from the two sides. I just double check my height here again. So once it's in place, okay, what I'll do is I'll take a pencil and I'll mark it. Put a little mark on the four corners of the bridge. Okay, so this time I'll use a mechanical pencil because it makes a smaller mark. I'll just put a dot on the four corners of the bridge just to know where the bridge should be, because it depends on the kind of varnish you have. Like this, it's maybe one of those that, you know, the bridge might slide around a little bit. I'll put a little mark where the four corners are, and then now this is the time where you would string up the rest of the cello and then figure out like where the Soundpost should be. Okay, I got the strings all strung up, and then now is the time to check the rest of the cello. Now you don't want this too tight. I have it like just, you know, with a little bit of tension to keep the bridge and everything in place. And this is when you check strings are okay, bridge, you know, fit well, and the tailpiece is there in the right place. And one of the things that I kind of saw when I first got the cello, and once again, I'm not an expert at this, but when I first got the cello, the part of the bridge was not, the feet was not conforming to the surface of the top, but with the strings, the load of the strings and the Soundpost in place, it seems to be fitting okay. Okay, seems to be fitting okay. Now I can't really get the angle to show in the camera well, but that's how it is. And this is the time to kind of like check the position of the Soundpost. And I have a little piece of paper that I used just now, and now I'm gonna put it in here, and now I'm gonna check how far the Soundpost is in from the feet of the bridge. So I have it here, and it's, let me just take my ruler, roughly measure it. Okay, here it says about 3 millimeters, and on the bass bar side, just to double check, it should be roughly the same distance. And same thing, it's 3 millimeters. And now you want to check the distance of the Soundpost away from the bottom side of the bridge. And so I'm going to use this part of the paper to kind of like touch the top of the Soundpost. And then you can see how far it is from the bottom of the bridge. And here it is quite far. It's like 6 millimeters off. So the ideal length is maybe about 5, but I would say it varies instrument to instrument. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to like move it to 4 or 5 first, and then play test it, and then shift it again. Okay, so here it goes. And usually a slight knock like this is more than enough. And I'm doing both the top and bottom, make sure the Soundpost is straight. Okay, and so with my piece of paper again, I'm going to measure it. Now I'm at 4 mm. Maybe a little bit overdone. So let me just knock it back out. Okay, it's at 5 mm. So now with the Soundpost in the right place, the bridge in the right place, the next thing you want to check is string height. And like without even looking right now, right off the bat, the string height looks off, way off. And so what I have to do is maybe a ruler, but I have my bridge template as well, but let's just use a ruler. Now if you measure from the top of where the fingerboard is to the side of the C string, it should be about 7 mm, 8 mm at most. Now right here, I have 11 mm. So it is a couple of millimeters off. On the A string side, it should be about 4 mm, 5 mm, and it's at 6 mm. Now I haven't put pressure on the string, so when I load the strings up, it will drop a little bit, maybe an mm, but it should not be that much. So let me just tune it up and see what's the reading after I tune it up. Okay, so the cello is tuned up. Now the correct pressure is on the string. I've checked the bridge, is straight mostly. And let's measure the heights. At the C string, still 11 millimeters. A string, still 6 millimeters. So the whole cello is between 2 to 3 millimeters too high on the bridge, and I'm gonna have to shave the bridge down. The last thing you have to do is to measure the after length. Now there's a theory to the after length. It's supposed to be like 1/6 of the string length or whatever. But I found that it really varies a little bit by the kind of strings you put on the cello. So in general, you want to tune the after length, the length after the bridge on the G string to be a C. So this is C, and this is a high C. Let's take a bow here, and you can hear it. So, well, I can't do a harmonic with the cello this way, but anyway, that is a C. You know, it's a C, okay? So here's a G, C, and then a C on the after length. And once you get a C on the after length, you've done it right. And so with the after length correct, what you get is a more resonant, more round sounding cello. Once again, I might be wrong. Leave a comment and let me know. I know some of you be like, I'm using the wrong bow, I'm not sitting up properly, but you know, I think it's good enough to know the sound of a cello like this. I'd say it's not bad. Conclusion I have for this is that, can you buy a AliExpress, well specifically YitaMusic AliExpress cello? The answer is, for the price, absolutely yes. Now, if I hadn't gotten this at a discount, if I had to pay $2,000 for it, would I buy it? I would say maybe. Why maybe? It depends on whether you are confident in setting it up. Now, the setup cost could be, like I said, my German instrument, I don't know if I shared it earlier, it costs more to service it, to fix it up, than to buy this cello. So the labor cost of a luthier setup could well cost more than the instrument. And of course, I put a nice set of used strings here, which I happen to have. These are Larson's. The original strings that came with the cello, throw them away. Those are absolutely trash. Okay, don't use the Chinese strings. Get a proper set of strings. I might do another video where I bring the bridges down to the right height and I try a set of like brand new Alpha U strings. I've been wanting to try them. They're pretty budget strings and I haven't had a chance to try them out. And this cello sounds a little metallic, so I might want to not use some of these like really hard steel strings and use something like that's closer to like a Pilastro Obbligato kind of warm texture. So I might try the Alpha U strings. I was told it's not bad, but you definitely need to spend money on a new set of strings. You might need to spend some money like setting it up right. Now, right off the bat, by using the bridge, the Soundpost, Tailpiece, and even the Tailgut that comes with the cello, you might get a somewhat working instrument. And you might have to spend some money on getting some tools like this, the Soundpost setter, right? And if you have to start shaving down your bridge, you might need a plane, some knives, a file, and some needle file to get the grooves in the strings, done properly. So that's some money that you have to spend, and sometimes you have to do it to get it right, and you might screw it up. Like if you cut the bridge down and you mess it up, you're gonna have to bring it to somebody to make a new bridge. Like doing the feet part is hard. That part as a non-expert, I will not touch, okay? But to bring the height down, maybe I'll touch it, but it's not that easy. You can't just cut it down because then you have to like remove some of the surface here to thin it back down to the right thickness at where the strings meet, right? And then you need to have to cut the grooves of the strings in the right place. But that aside, the cello is absolutely fine. At $2,000, it's still probably worth it. I would say probably, if you can set it up. And you might be expecting to spend another close to $1,000 to get it set up properly. New set of strings is like $400 almost. A good one. A cheap set of good strings is still about $100 over, right? And then you bring it to a luthier, say you need a new bridge, it might cost you another $200, $300. I don't know what's the going rate these days. So with that said, I think this sounds really good. And why not let's do this? I'm gonna play this and my German cello, and we'll do a comparison. I have my mic kind of here, so the mic is up here, okay? Might sound a bit different, but anyway. Sounds not too bad actually. This is the bow that they gave. It's kind of tip heavy, not my kind of thing. Oh wow, the hair already broke on day one. So let's do open. Oh, I forgot to take this out. Okay, let's take an open string comparison. C. See, the action here is kind of high. It's very hard for me to get my intonation because the bridge is kind of too high. But is it playable? Yes. Is it great, especially for a beginner who's like, it hurts pressing the string? Maybe not, okay? So as a beginner, you get a cheap instrument, you might have trouble playing properly. Okay, enough of that. Let's try the instrument that's 10 times the price. Right off the bat, it's warmer, sweeter tone. And of course, it's easier to activate the strings. The higher registers are much clearer, and that's probably because of the height of the strings from the fingerboard. It doesn't need me to press it that hard, and I'm able to then firmly hold the strings down. It makes a difference to the tone, okay? I also just tuned this up, so yeah. such a joy to play. The difference in the setup makes the instrument so much easier to play, the strings so much easier to activate, and of course the quality of the instrument makes the sound much nicer, much warmer. Now off camera, I tried putting on these Spirit Core C's and G's on that new cello and they sound horrible. And that's because that new cello maybe needs to be played in, maybe needs to be seasoned for a while, but it has a very strong, edgy, metallic sound. And that's not ideal. So once we get that sound away as it ages, maybe you can put some of these Spirit Cores on. But right now the Larsons, like the whole set of Larsons and used ones in fact, sounds great on that cello. And once again, don't use the Chinese strings that came with the instrument. So with that, thank you for watching and goodbye.